Again. Now we are getting ready to let you guys with our next speaker, Adam O'Brien, family man and Bitcoin entrepreneur, who's here to help us understand self-custody as Bitcoin moves towards its mass adoption. Please welcome to the stage. In a second. Let's give it a moment. We're having some technical difficulties at the moment, just setting up everything for you guys. How's everyone doing? Are you guys enjoying adopting Bitcoin 2024? Yeah. I'm glad to see the enthusiasm. I'm having a great time too. Yes. If you guys have any feedback, questions, if you want to start a conversation, please feel free to raise your hand, or to our speaker, or feel free to talk to anyone from our staff. And now we are ready. Please welcome to the stage Adam O'Brien. Thank you.
Hello. They always give me the mic and they don't realize how loud that I talk, so buckle up. Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to talk about self-custody. And self-custody is basically the principle of owning and controlling your Bitcoin, holding your own keys. So every time I say self-custody or personal custody, what I'm talking about is Bitcoin sitting in a wallet that you control, and not in a wallet like an exchange, not a wallet like a custodial wallet. And the key distinction there is going to be whether or not you have written down your seed phrase. Who here knows what a seed phrase is? Good, yeah, so a seed phrase is essentially 12 to 24 words that prove that you own the wallet. We're gonna hopefully get the slides up here soon. So as we go through this self-custody journey, we're gonna talk about kind of three things. The first one being why Bitcoin is good, talk about why Bitcoin exists and all that fun stuff. The next one, we're gonna talk about why Bitcoin is not an investment. And then the last one we're gonna talk about is the importance of self-custody and why Bitcoin is an investment actually leads us into why self-custody is so important. But before we do that, we're gonna go ahead and talk about me for a couple minutes. This is me in 2017 with $1 million in a backpack. I was standing, this picture is actually taken, you can't really tell, but it's in an airport bathroom back, like I said, in 2017. And you might ask yourself, what is a 25-year-old kid doing in an airport with $1 million in a backpack? And the answer to that question is actually something that we're going to explore, and it's something that we can kind of go through on our Bitcoin journey. Because like all of you, man, I feel like I'm really loud. Can you lower me a little bit? Like all of you, when I found Bitcoin for the first time, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was silly. It was fake internet money. This is back in 2013. I had just reached $100, and I thought, haha, those internet losers are dumb, and they're going to lose all their money. And then I thought it was a scam, like many of us do. And then, sadly, I thought I was late. And then I felt an emotion that most of us feel, which is sad. This is kind of the cycle of an early Bitcoiner. But this cycle is actually very, very important. Let me keep going back here. This cycle is actually very, very important. And it's part of our Bitcoin journey. In 2013, when I found Bitcoin, the early part of my Bitcoin journey, there was no online exchanges, there was no BTC sessions or Simply Bitcoin showing us how Bitcoin worked. Basically, for me to buy Bitcoin, I was forced with two options. The first option was wire money to Russia, and the second option was meet a guy in a back alley. And so I opted for the back alley experience. I gave him $100, and he gave me one full Bitcoin. Then I decided that I was going to be a hero, and I sold that Bitcoin for $110, basically making 10% in just a couple of days, or if you can do the quick math, 1,500% APR, which I think makes me one of the smartest fiat bros on planet Earth. And shortly after that, I kind of became the Bitcoin guy in Edmonton. You can call me, you can meet me with a coffee, you can meet me and have an ice cream, and I would sell you Bitcoin. Then after that, we launched the first Bitcoin ATM in 2014 in Alberta, followed up with one in Saskatchewan. My wife and I got married, moved to Vancouver, and we set up a couple of Bitcoin ATMs down there. But then in 2015, we lost the slides again, amigo. Then in 2015, things started getting kind of weird. I went to the bank to withdraw some money, and all of a sudden, My bank had no money in it. My account was locked. The bank at the time, which was called RBC, they determined that my business was too risky and that I shouldn't have a bank account there anymore. They froze my money and debanked me. No problem. Took my money out after a couple weeks of fighting with them and put it into a different bank account. But a couple months later, that bank also decided that my business was too risky, that I personally was too risky, and they also banned me. Over the span of the next couple of years, I was debanked and deplatformed from every single, it's not working. You wanna go next? From every single bank across the country. I'd done no crimes, I'd committed no fraud, I'd had no problems. However, I also had no banks, hence the cash. Whoop. We're fighting for the remote here. So I was running this legitimate business, I was paying my taxes, I was obeying the law, and I had no way to deposit the cash from my legitimate operations. Armored car companies wouldn't work with me if I couldn't deposit the money into a bank account. And so I flew around the country with piles of money in a backpack, just like the good old days. Now, before any of you start following me to the airport later on this week, we have upgraded. We went public a few years ago. I have a bank account now. We have armored cars that work for us, and I carry no cash, just Bitcoin. But it was here that I started realizing that Bitcoin is not some form of investment. It was much more than that. It was really about freedom. And this freedom, when you think about an investment, you think about something that you buy low and then sell high. You want to buy something for $100 and sell it for 110, like me making 1,500% APR. But this buy low and sell high strategy is only focused on the price of Bitcoin. And that's only one piece of money. See, I believe that when we only focus on price, we kind of pigeonhole Bitcoin into a little tiny corner. And so I want to zoom out a little bit. When you talk about money and what money is supposed to be, it has to be divisible, so I can spend it in multiple different spots. It has to be durable and transferable, so I can spend it with ease. I want to be able to not lose it and send it anywhere in the world. It has to be verifiable, so I know it's legitimate. I don't want to take fake money. It has to be fungible, so I can spend different tokens that have the same value. And then lastly, it has to be scarce. When we talk about price, we only really focus on the scarcity of Bitcoin. Everything else that we just talked about for money is actually about freedom. It's about capturing the value that you create with your time and having full freedom to do whatever it is you want with it. With full confidence that it won't be leached away, that some politician won't steal it from you through debasement of monetary currency, and the confidence that you won't lose access to it subject to a system that is maybe not in your favor. See, throughout my experience here, I learned very, very quickly that every dollar I had ever earned was subject to my behavior. All of a sudden, my efforts became second place to my association with the regime. If my behavior didn't match the government's regime, the banking regime at the time, or if heaven forbid I tried to oppose the system, I was going to be exposed to the decisions of the banks. I was going to be exposed to the decisions of politicians, and I was not in control. I was not free. And sadly, we learned a couple years ago that I wasn't alone. I'm from Canada, and we saw in Canada one of the largest peaceful protests that this world has ever seen in 2022. We had the truckers driving all across the country, one of the biggest countries in the world, not harming anyone, not doing anything wrong, simply driving in protest that they couldn't work and opposing the vaccine mandates. The banks acted very, very quickly throughout this. They froze millions of dollars donated to help these truckers. They ultimately did so before it was even made legal to do. We can see here Krista Freeland saying banks are obligated to flag and freeze or suspend accounts from these illegal blockades. Still today, there is about $10 million worth of value locked up in the court system, now almost 3 years later. So, what on earth can we do? We can buy real Bitcoin. Real Bitcoin is the distinction between Bitcoin sitting in your wallet, Bitcoin sitting in something that you own and control, and not in someone else's wallet that is subject to being frozen. All of the money sitting in a custodial exchange account is freezable. However, during these blockades, I can't go back, that's okay. During the blockades, when someone was saying to freeze the accounts, the only thing that was not touched was Bitcoin held in the hands of Bitcoiners. The Bitcoin was left good, and that's amazing. And so, I want to talk about self-custody. I want to talk about real Bitcoin. I want to talk about the importance of real Bitcoin and really dive into this. Because when you have Bitcoin in self-custody, you're protected against two things. The first one being politics, and the second one being platform. We're talking about politics, no government can shut you down, no bank can freeze your funds, but I'll admit, these are kind of edge cases. Probably not all of you are forced to fly around with $1 million in your backpack, because I know that I'm an edge case. Not everyone here is a trucker going to put their life on the line driving across the country during this big scary protest. I realize this politics are edge cases. However, it does protect against that. So I want to talk about the platform risks. Now, what are the risks to having Bitcoin in a platform? When I say platform, I mean any Bitcoin wallet, any Bitcoin exchange, any Bitcoin company where you do not have full access to your keys. The first one is theft. Is there a better poster child for theft than this man right here? SBF was hailed a hero. He was one of the largest donators to the Democratic Party in 2022. He was a genius. He was on the Forbes list, as we can see here. And then he ultimately was the biggest fraudster in the world. He's now sitting in jail for hopefully the rest of his life. And there's many other platforms that have acted this way. He's not the first one. We had Quadriga up in Canada. Before that, we had Mt. Gox, if you're putting your tinfoil hat on. But realistically, again, I think and I hope we're at the tail end of this phase of the industry. I don't believe that platform theft is going to be a big problem over the next few years, because I think we're regulating this space. I think there's good actors coming into the space. But what else could Bitcoin, outside of self-custody, what other problems can we have? And the answer is lots. Theft, incompetence, sustainability, the honeypot, the list goes on and on and on. And today I want to focus on three things. I want to focus on platform incompetence, platform sustainability, and then the ultimate honeypot problem that exists inside of a platform. So the first one, incompetence. This is a headline that I think was really underplayed, and I don't think we gave enough attention to it. No matter where your Bitcoin sits, you are subject to the employees of that business handling your Bitcoin. Specifically, and unfortunately, the weakest link in the chain. How many of you guys obviously flew here or drove here, ordered a coffee or a restaurant in the last little while? The quality of service isn't exactly going up, at least not in North America, where I come from. Where I come from, the service is going down, down, down. Payments are going up, up, up. There's an obvious decline in the quality of service, and this is happening across every single industry, including, by the way, Bitcoin exchanges. This headline here from about 3 years ago, BlockFi, who's a lending company, they take Bitcoin and they pay out rewards, and they also give out loans. They were slated to give out $700 in Bitcoin to a few of their users. And you can imagine their mid to low level employee walking into work, maybe hungover, maybe tired, maybe starting his Monday off. We've all been there, that's okay. He clicked the wrong button and he sent 700 Bitcoin out to those users, not $700. Now, for a big company like BlockFi, 700 Bitcoin, not going to bankrupt them. But what happens if it's 7,000? What happens if it's 7 million? 7 million probably won't happen. But you understand where I'm going. And unfortunately, this happens all the time. In the legacy financial system, this happens every single day, where we have banks and banks and banks sending money to the wrong spot. The difference is, money can be undone. Bitcoin, there is no control Z. You cannot just undo the transaction that was sent by mistakes, which makes this level of incompetence obviously unacceptable, but also a little bit unavoidable. Because when you trust someone else with your Bitcoin, you are going to be subject to that incompetence. At the end of the day, if your money is sitting on a Bitcoin platform, you are always going to be subject to the risk of the lowest common denominator of whoever has access to that Bitcoin. But let's move on. Business sustainability. Let's say you get lucky. You dodge the SBF bullet. You dodge the incompetent drunk employee bullet. What else is there? Have you ever wondered why this is a picture of a bank from the old day, actually not AI generated. This is from Google, so that's how you know it's real. Those big pillars at the front. This is lots of banks that looked like this over in Europe especially. These big statues, these massive lobbies. My kids and my wife and I were watching Harry Potter right now. I imagine like Gringotts. Gringotts is like the most heroic bank on planet Earth. There's like these big marble statues everywhere, the nice big countertops, gold chandeliers. And back in the day, a bank would go broke and you would lose all of your money. All customer deposits were subject to the bank going broke. And so the banks needed to symbolize that they were trustworthy. We are the good bank. So hilariously, they would spend a portion of customer funds or rehypothecate some customer funds and build these big giant pillars. So you would think that their building was the good one. Theirs was the safe one. Your money was going to be safe and trustworthy with them. A little bit of a Ponzi scheme. But I'd like you, we're all kind of chuckling and laughing a little bit. Make no mistake that your Bitcoin sitting in custody on a Bitcoin platform outside of your control will be sold and used to pay back debts or to pay back, in worst case scenario, a bankruptcy. Coinbase in particular, largest custodial Bitcoin platform, I think on the planet, they have recently changed their terms of service to signal that customers are considered debtors and they are last in line. Meaning you deposit your money, you buy the coins, and you leave your coins there. If Coinbase goes broke, your coins go to somebody else. You have zero legal right to your Bitcoin while they are sitting in Coinbase. And even if you do get paid, we're watching hilariously the FTX payout come out right now. Now, there's a whole bunch of nuance there that I don't have time to go into, but some of the FTX customers are getting what's being quoted as a 98% payback after the whole bankruptcy and fraud, which is very, very good. However, because we have been locked in bankruptcy court for 2 years, and because Bitcoin price does what Bitcoin does and is seemingly 10x or going up by $10,000 a day, the coins are being marked at 2022 value. So if you had one Bitcoin sitting in FTX, you're only getting back about $20,000 worth of value, where that one Bitcoin is now worth over $90,000. You're going to be subject, when you don't have Bitcoin in self-custody, if you hold your coins in an exchange, you are going to be subject to their ability to actually run the business, right? If the argument is, I didn't have time to learn how to self-custody, I'm sorry, are you learning everything about their business? Are you actually able to go through and decipher their business practices? And then finally, we have the honeypot. The honeypot is one of the most unsung signals that I think we as Bitcoiners need to identify. And it actually goes a little bit deeper than just holding Bitcoin on platform. The honeypot is a theory. Oh, this is a bad transition. Sorry, guys. The honeypot is a theory that as value centralizes and congregates, it becomes worth more on an exponential level to go and attack it. And there's two reasons why this honeypot is a big problem. The first one is that Bitcoin is public. I can see how much Bitcoin is held inside any Bitcoin address that I want. I can also see where that Bitcoin came from, and it doesn't take a genius to find where the Coinbase cold storage Bitcoin is. And second is that Bitcoin cannot be hacked. It is completely unhackable. And so, because I cannot penetrate the network, I now have to penetrate the wallets. Now, there's a double-edged sword here. Lucky for us as individuals, wallets in Bitcoin wallets are institutional grade. Every single wallet that you make, that you own and control, have institutional level security. They are the same for you as they are for Coinbase. And so, if I have to have the same amount of effort to hack a Bitcoin wallet, and I can attack my coins, or your coins, or your coins, or I can go after a Coinbase wallet, I'm probably going to want to spend my time and energy going after a Coinbase wallet. This is kind of where the honeypot comes into play. One of the innovations here is that one of the innovations of a Bitcoin wallet is that the security that you want, that you need to store your generational wealth is accessible to everyone. When I say Bitcoin is for everyone, when we talk about Bitcoin being fair and equal for all, there are no special rules. There's no such thing as institutional or some kind of corporate security that you can upgrade with your Bitcoin. It is accessible and available to everyone for free if you want education, or obviously you can pay for it with companies that are going to help you with that. Our gold is obviously safer in a vault because we cannot build giant vaults in our hole. Our cash is not that safe buried underneath our mattresses. Your fancy watches are better suited in these big giant institutional alarmed with James Bond lasers flying everywhere. But with Bitcoin, we literally just buy a $200 device full of open source code that we can audit. We can roll our dice 150 times to generate our seed phrase, and we have a wallet safer than Fort Knox for us as individuals. So I'm picking here on Coinbase. Almost there. There we go. I'm picking here on Coinbase, and I want to highlight just how bad the honeypot is. 90% of the ETF's Bitcoins are sitting in Coinbase. Everyone on Twitter praising Michael Saylor, buying Bitcoin, hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin. All of those are sitting in Coinbase. There are even Canadian Bitcoin exchanges that hold Canadian customer Bitcoin in Coinbase. This is actually the reason I started Bitcoin Well and why our mission to enable independence I feel is so important. The only way that we as individuals can achieve maximum independence is by having Bitcoin held safely in self-custody. But I'm sure here, adopting Bitcoin, most of us probably already know that. We probably already empower and encourage people to use self-custody. Something I hear time and time again. I use a custodial platform, but I withdraw immediately. Side note about that, someone that I know, he got caught. That was his practice. He deposited funds, bad time, and that was when the exchange went under. It's not foolproof, but it's unlikely. But that's good. You use a custodial platform, you withdraw to self-custody immediately,